Hey everyone, Kristen from A Mindful Mom. As you know, I believe homemade is best, but it doesn't need to be complicated. I am so excited to share with you today's recipe. It is a take on my famous baked meatballs. I am known for my meatballs, and for good reason. They are tender yet crispy, and they fall apart in your mouth with so much flavor. Out of this world good. Well, we're gonna use the Instant Pot to speed up the process. And while these meatballs don't get as crispy on the outside as if they were baked in the oven, they're incredibly flavorful and they are truly so tender. They taste like they've been simmered in sauce. That's the texture they have. So let's get cooking. Whenever you make meatballs, the most important thing to remember is you want to combine your ingredients for the binders, the things that are going to go in the meatballs to hold them together and flavor them before adding the meat. That'll prevent overworking your meat, which can result in tough meatballs. So I have 1 large egg, a 1/4 cup of beef broth there, about 1 tablespoon of fresh minced parsley. That freshness really adds great flavor. 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. I add a lot of seasonings to add a lot of flavor. Pinch of red pepper flakes, omit those, increase them, decrease them, whatever you'd like. 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, and about a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. I also have 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese, and 1/3 cup of panko breadcrumbs. You could use regular Italian breadcrumbs, but the panko breadcrumbs keep the meatballs a lot lighter, and they're just my go-to breadcrumbs that I keep on hand for pretty much all of my recipes. Give that a stir. 2 combined there. To this mixture, I'm adding in 1 pound of lean ground beef here, and I have some gloves on here just because the best way to mix meatballs is using your hands. You certainly don't need gloves, but for video purposes, it makes it a little bit easier for me. Remember, you don't want to overwork the meat. You just want to fold the breadcrumbs and the eggs and the seasonings throughout the beef, and so that they're nice and flavorful every bite. Okay, our meat is nice and combined here. And remember, you do want to use lean ground beef or ground turkey or ground chicken when making meatballs. And that way, there's not so much fat that your meatballs become greasy or they render out and just kind of turn into little tiny meatballs. So let's talk about preparing our Instant Pot. Today I'm using my 8-quart Instant Pot. So I'm adding in 1.5 cups of tap water to the bottom of my inner pot. You could use additional beef broth, but for this recipe, it really doesn't make that big of a difference. And then I'm placing in a rack here, and we're gonna set our meatballs on top of this rack carefully. Now you can totally use a steamer basket or something like that if you'd like, but you do need a trivet to keep your meatballs above the cooking liquid. And then you just want to use a tablespoon or cookie scoop here, small cookie scoop. This time I'm going to use my hands without the gloves. And just roll your meatballs into little balls here, and then you're just going to place them right on top of the trivet. And it is okay if you end up needing to stack the meatballs. Okay, now to pressure cook our meatballs. Because they're relatively small, they're only gonna cook for 5 minutes on high pressure. But you do want to allow for a full pressure release or for at least 10 minutes, and that'll keep your meat super tender. So you wanna hit manual or pressure cook, and then use the plus or minus buttons and adjust until it reads 5. Okay, my meatballs have cooked. I've let pressure release naturally for 10 minutes. You can let it go longer, but at least 10 minutes to keep your meatballs super tender. And it smells so good in here. These meatballs are truly steamed. They're like It's like they've been simmered in sauce, like I said, but they still hold together, and you can see they didn't fall through the trivet there. I know some of you were worried about that. And you can make a double batch. Cooking time will remain the same, just stack them on top of each other. Another reason you want to use that lean beef so that the grease doesn't like drip down all through the meatballs there. Although some people would argue that's delicious. So I have some cooked pasta here, because what's more classic than spaghetti and meatballs? And I have some of my homemade Instant Pot spaghetti sauce here. I'm gonna spoon that over. These meatballs really, they're so flavorful. They don't really need sauce, but I love spaghetti sauce here. So I'm gonna go in for a bite. I'm just gonna get the meatball for right now. My stomach's growling. These smell so good. I know some of you may be thinking, meatballs in the Instant Pot, really? But let me tell you, they are so good. They are tender. They fall apart in your mouth, but yet they hold together on your plate. They are out of this world delicious. I can't wait for you to try it. And for another delicious recipe that may surprise you in your Instant Pot, be sure to catch out my next recipe where I share with you how to make Instant Pot meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Until next time, happy cooking.